So, finally got my hands on a game that I honestly barely knew anything about, and lo and behold, the developer Pixel Maniacs actually sent me a copy of their brand new port of the game, and it's of course ChromaGun VR. Now, I've never played the original game, so I'm going in completely fresh, but at the same time, I am interested. Mostly because it supports this baby. So yeah, without further ado, let's get to it. Is the game fun? Most importantly, is it worth the money? Well, let's find out. Alright, first things first, let's talk about the aesthetic. The whole facility is pretty reminiscent of something like Portal, but with a much more cartoony art style. Graphics-wise, it looks sharp and clear, everything looked clean, and honestly, it definitely helped me with my overall immersion. The only real gripe I had was that there was little to no variety. Now, I wouldn't mention this because it honestly doesn't need it, it's a puzzle game, but there were hints here and there of the test facility being a bit dilapidated. Some walls were broken, and some doors would malfunction. These are cool details, but they definitely gave me the vibe that things were going to get worse and worse as things went along, but instead, they don't, which was kind of a letdown. I mean, again, there is some slight scenery change here and there, but it quickly reverts back to the original white walls, as before. So, Besides that, the other big thing is the sound department. The sound effects are stock, and so is some of the music, particularly the song playing right now, which is from Kevin MacLeod, a popular stock music creator. But the game does have some original music, and all in all, it's pretty relaxing, which honestly works great in this setting. Not to mention, the only voice you hear in the whole game is that of a narrator, who acts as the announcer of the test facility, ultimately guiding you from room to room and scolding you whenever you make a mistake. The voice actor does a good job, but I kind of wish he had more to work with. And, well, they could have thrown in some more jokes, but at the same time, they could have probably fallen flat, but whatever. For now, it's good. Aesthetically, the game is pretty simple and boilerplate. It gets the job done. I did notice from original gameplay videos that the graphics in the VR look much more simpler than the original game. But again, it works just fine. Which reminds me, let's not talk about the story. Like always, I will not spoil anything here, so don't worry. But having said that, there really honestly isn't anything to spoil here. It starts off similar to games like, again, Portal and Static, where you are a test subject in a test facility, and you must solve puzzles. Some story events do happen, and honestly are predictable. All in all, it's serviceable and it serves its purpose, but for some reason I was a bit disappointed. I don't know why, but I felt like the game was going to take me down a rabbit hole of how crazy the facility actually is. But instead, it mainly just focused on the puzzles, which in hindsight isn't a bad thing. I mean, after all, once again, this is a puzzle game. It does not need a story. So, let's now focus on that. And, of course, that means the gameplay. Basically, you the player holds a special gun in your hand. It shoots 3 colors of paint, all the primary colors, blue, yellow, and red. You, of course, can mix these, creating 3 other secondary colors, green, orange, and purple. With this special contraption, you are tasked to go into each test chamber and find and open the exit. You achieve this by painting certain walls and activate switches with flying paintable droids that are attracted to specific colors. The game does throw some curveballs in there like unpaintable walls, killer droids, and electrified floors, which add some variety. But in the end, it's stupid simple, and any child can grasp the concept in minutes. However, despite having such an easy premise, the difficulty of these puzzles can get pretty high. The trial and error aspect of each puzzle felt great, and at no point did I feel like the game tricked me into achieve death. Every mistake is your own, and the developers definitely designed each new mechanic to be taught to the player, not, being told through a text box. If I ever got stumped, it was strictly from the puzzle itself, never from something that I didn't know I couldn't do. Ultimately, it's a decent indie puzzler. But how is it in VR? Especially with the aim controller. Well, to be honest, it's kinda great. The immersion never really was broken because most of the time you were focused on the puzzles. The aim controller feels so good in the player's hands despite the more rounder shape of the in-game Chroma Gun. Quick aiming and shooting felt good, especially for those puzzles that will require quick decision making. Snap turning and smooth turning are both options allowing different preferences. The only issue I kinda had with the game was the movement speed. I wish the walking speed was a bit faster, but since many people don't have their VR legs yet, I completely understand why. The game isn't meant to be an intense VR experience. Everyone should be able to play a puzzle game. Although again, I do wish they added the option to, have the original's movement speed. However, in some cases, this would probably make the game far easier when avoiding the killer droids. So again, I understand why it's been left out. All in all, the gameplay is solid, simple, and in VR, it feels fun. So on to my final thoughts. There are quite a few puzzle games in VR nowadays, but this one definitely feels the closest to a game that is perfect for VR, and especially the aim controller. The design is simple and intuitive, and yet definitely hard enough to please anyone looking for a challenge. VR puzzle lovers, buy this as soon as you can. And VR gamers in general, if you're looking for another game to play with your aim controller, or a puzzle game in general, definitely take this into consideration. Just don't expect a crazy deep story like something out of Portal. And you'll leave satisfied with the puzzly goodness delivered here. Well, that's the review. And now, let's get down to the most important question. Is it worth the money? And at retail, $20 or $9.99. It really depends. So if you're a person, who... Well, first of all, let's talk about the length. The length is about 5 to 7 hours. Personally, I beat it in about less than 4 hours, but it'll definitely vary from person to person, especially how long you play it and how often you play it. So yeah, I'd say 5 hours is pretty reasonable, lengthwise. But for $20, I think it's pretty decent. I mean, if you're a person who, is an average VR gamer and you want to add a game to your library, at $20, it's good. I mean, I'd wait for a sale personally, but it is good. But again, personally, as a person who really likes puzzle games and really enjoys using this thing any way I freaking can, for $20, this thing is pretty damn well priced. I mean, it's honestly perfect. Yes, there's low to no replay value. Once you get through the whole campaign, it's over and done with. But it's still a lot of fun, and the puzzles can get really, really hard. And honestly, again, your times may vary, and this is a really, really good game, especially with this thing. Again, you could play it without this, but I highly recommend it using this. Now, if you're a person who actually owned the original game, here's where it kind of gets muddy. This game is essentially just a re-release. It's a port. It's not a VR update, which sadly means you have to buy it all over again. So yeah, if you're on that boat, I'd recommend a deep sale, because $20 on top of the $15 you originally paid for the original game is kind of steep. But yeah, maybe give it some time, maybe forget about all the puzzles and eventually buy it when you see it on a good sale. And yeah, all in all, I'm trying to say this game is actually worth it, especially as long as you have the right hardware. And if you're a fan of the actual kind of game this thing's going to present in front of you, then hell yeah. It's a good game, it's fun, it's simple, and yeah, there's really no big, huge thrills and like story-wise, like I mentioned, but at the same time, it doesn't need it. It's a damn good puzzle game, and honestly, it definitely had me scratching my head. So yeah, whatever. That's the video. Thank you for watching. Like, comment, and subscribe. And I'll see you guys later.